Hello everybody and welcome back to the Around the Country series. You are joining us live on Facebook or on YouTube or on the podcast. Today I'm joined by Chris De Closey. Chris, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Bart. It's great to be here.
Beautiful. Look, I'm going to let you do your introductions. Let us know who you are, where you're from, what country you represent, what company you represent, I meant to say. But I know that you're in Queensland, so you're covering off that part of the country for us. But yeah, tell us everything else.
Excellent. Thank you. As Bart said, my name is Chris De Closey. I operate a consulting company called Switch Hotel Solutions. We provide consulting support to hotels, motels, resorts, for all aspects of the industry, whether that be an asset management scenario or whether we provide revenue, sales and marketing support. We provide a tailored solution for all of our properties that work with us. All of those solutions are unique to the property, and we use data-driven techniques to make sure that we are identifying what works best for that property. So a little bit about me. I have been in the industry, cut my teeth in hotels themselves, so working with Outrigger Resorts and Mantra Group. Spent 10 years with them, and then I made the jump across to Expedia, the big bad OTA Expedia. So I was with them for 2.5 years and saw an opportunity to start consulting for hotels and resorts and jumped straight into it. And since then we've grown to over 20 clients. And we now also have our own property that we manage as a bit of skin in the game as well. So we're based on the Gold Coast, but we have clients all across Queensland at the moment. And I myself, I'm a Gold Coast local, so love this area, love the beachside living. I was just showing Bart before the ocean. I won't show everyone that now, but great area to live in and a great area for tourism at the moment as well.
Yeah, it's raining outside right now where I am, so there is quite a bit of jealousy. But I guess that's why we do what we do, right? Is to be able to go and travel and to see different places and to have new experiences, which is, I guess, the best part of being in this industry and doing this job. So thanks for joining us. I think that the great thing about you sharing some of your experiences is that you've got a much broader sense of what's happening across the market in the Gold Coast and Queensland, rather than just working one property. You might be able to say, well, hey, this is what's happening across the board. And I don't want to spend too much time focusing on where you guys were at, but it would be, if you can summarize quickly, like the border closures and kind of what that meant for businesses and hotels in the local area, and maybe some of those avatars that might kind of get us going and moving into some more interesting topics about what's next.
Yeah, of course. So the border closures had an impact on everyone. Unfortunately, our Premier, when she closed them with minimal notice, it created a lot of uncertainty in the market. A lot of travellers didn't want to get caught in border closures, so were cancelling reservations and just shutting up shop, which did lead to quite a few operators losing some bookings. That first border closure impacted severely. We did have quite a bit of trouble happening within Queensland, but it just wasn't enough to sustain the market. A lot of people were still struggling to get by. The second border closure most recently before Easter, not border closure, but lockdown before Easter. We were quite lucky that a lot of people now have sort of understood that tourism is always going to be happening, and people are starting to understand that they'll take that risk and hope that it all comes good. And in this case, it obviously did. Brisbane was reopened, and any bookings that were potentially lost were resold almost immediately. So it was a very good time for us recently over Easter.
Well, okay, so that lockdown happened, kind of disaster. Phones go off the hook, everyone's cancelling left, right, and centre, and then rebookings, and then they go, oh, it's open again, and they rebooked. Or was there a little bit more patience where people were like, hold on, the lockdowns, it was 5 days, wasn't it? And then it changed to 3.
Yes.
So, yeah. And then people were like, oh, let's just wait for a few more days before we rush and cancel that booking. Is that what you're saying? Is that people were a bit more patient?
Yeah, that's correct. So people were, the first lockdown that happened in Brisbane, everyone cancelled, bookings just went haywire in Queensland. Quite a few people tried to escape Brisbane the first time that happened, and being on the Gold Coast, a lot of people tried to escape that lockdown and come in and stay here for 5-6 nights. The second lockdown, we didn't see anywhere near as many cancellations, which was good. People understood that, hey, maybe it's not as bad as it's being reported, and that obviously led to some cancellations, but those cancellations were snapped up almost immediately because people who wanted to come and stay couldn't because the market was booked out. So it gave an opportunity for people to come and stay from other regions. So, New South Wales, Victoria, people were able to come and travel to the Gold Coast because there was actually availability opening up for them.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so and then just to give people context in terms of, I guess we're talking a little bit broad right now in terms of cancellations and bookings. A bit more context might be helpful as well, because I guess running, some short-term rental apartments is different to hotels, or tell me about that. So places were booked for Easter. Was it just everywhere was booked, or was it kind of a set type of accommodation that was fully booked?
Yeah, almost every type of accommodation on the Gold Coast was booked. So if you wanted to book say a 7-night stay, you couldn't get that for anything less than about 7 or 8 grand for 7 nights on the Gold Coast, and especially in Surfers Paradise. There was just nothing in the market. Easter is always historically a very good time, as it is everywhere, but this year more so because people couldn't travel. A lot of people's plans were cancelled. A lot of people had credit notes from previous accommodation. So that kind of created a perfect storm, which meant that the market was actually saturated to a point where there was nothing. So people were scrambling to rebook accommodation, which was instead of being a $7,000 booking, then with 1 or 2 rooms left, the prices came down to 3 to 4 grand for a 7-night stay, which is obviously a lot more affordable.
Wow. Okay, so wow, you've caught us up quite quickly to where we are kind of right now. So Easter is come and gone. In general, we'll talk about what's happening with New Zealand. But let's say the New Zealand bubble wasn't happening. How are we feeling about the prospects of just Australian travel into Queensland?
Yeah, without the bubble, obviously, coming into these winter months, it's always generally a quieter period for any regions that we may have, especially for travel. Historically, though, we generally see a lot of southerners, so the Victorians, South Australians, and Sydney-siders will come up to Queensland and to the Gold Coast specifically to escape that cold. So we find that you'll generally get a lot of longer stay bookings in apartment-style accommodation, whether that's a 6-week stay or an 8-week stay. So people are often trying to escape that. With the inability to
Just
travel.
in terms of avatar, that sort of demographic there, so we're talking about an older demographic, is that right? Or
That's
six
correct,
to eight
yes.
weeks? I imagine that the younger people can't afford to take that time off of work if they are working.
That's correct, yeah. It was an older demographic that would historically come and travel through that period. And that demographic is still coming now, so they're still making those bookings that they would always come for. And then we've also noticing that because we've got that availability, obviously now, and people want to travel and they can't go overseas, is that we're getting a lot of those shorter 3 to 4 night stays for a weekend here or there coming from those southerners who are in that younger demographic as well.
And cancellation policies, curious, have you guys had to adjust for COVID, or is it like, well, there's such little availability, we don't really have to bend our cancellation policies as much to capture people's bookings?
There is still definitely availability. So there's not like that the Gold Coast is 100% full every night. Weekend trade is roaring, so that's always good. A lot of people have reverted cancellation policies back to pre-COVID policies. So obviously through COVID, people brought their policies back to short cancellation terms, 24 to 72 hours, up to a week. With obviously flexibility around COVID, so border closures happen, you would receive the credit notes or refunds. Now that the travel is starting to restart, people are reverting them back to their 14 days or their 30-day policies. Not too many non-refundable policies out there at the moment, which obviously is better for the traveller and better for the consumer, and it gives them a bit of confidence to know that they can book it without having to worry too much about what could happen in the future.
Great. Okay, so travel bubbles opening with New Zealand. My personal story is my family's all over in New Zealand. I get a call every second day saying, "Have you booked the flights? Are you coming over?" Last night before bed, open up my phone and there's a COVID case in Auckland. I think it's something that is not unexpected, so they're not panicking too much. So, but we all know that feeling of, oh, yeah, everything's opening again, it's going to be all right. And then all of a sudden it changes once again and you kind of get a punch to the guts. But it's looking good. It's looking good that New Zealand, that bubble is going to happen. You mentioned before we got on that you felt that it would make a significant impact to the industry in Queensland and Gold Coast. Tell me about your feelings for that.
Yeah, so outside of China, New Zealand is the biggest inbound market into Queensland, and specifically the Gold Coast, sorry. So we often see that New Zealanders make up a large portion of our international business. For some properties and some of my clients, they were up to 50% of their total business before COVID hit, just being a favourite property for those ones. Obviously, with COVID now, that's impacted that, but we've recently been reported that up to 1% of all Kiwis are living on the Gold Coast. Whether that's true or not, but it was the numbers that came out from some reliable sources on the Gold Coast. And obviously the ability then for them to travel and see family and friends back and forth. We've seen that there has been an uptick in bookings, so future bookings now are starting to roll in outside of that usual short booking window that we're currently experiencing. So we're starting to get some bookings at 60 plus days, which obviously pre-COVID didn't really happen.
So 60 plus days for
Sorry, during COVID.
international travelers, or 60 plus days in general, like
60 plus 60 plus days for international travelers. So the domestic travelers are still booking within that short booking window, which is, we're sort of looking at about 7 to 21 is kind of the sweet spot for a lot of clients at the moment. But yeah, with the international travel, we're definitely noticing that is starting to blow out a little bit, which is very good.
Let's see if we can drop a bomb here and try to expand the horizons for some people that are looking at that Kiwi market. Do you have any tips in terms of what to do? So Kiwi market's open. Yep, great. I'm on the OTAs. I'm gonna post on Facebook saying, come to my place from New Zealand. Any practical tips that you would have in terms of appealing to that particular market in terms of
Yeah.
marketing?
So the best thing that I can always suggest to anyone is to put yourself into the shoes of the customer first. So you can go onto Expedia or whatif.com, but the New Zealand site, so you can see how your property looks on that international platform. You can see their discounts that they may be running for other suppliers or other things. Put yourself in the shoes of the customer and look at it from a customer's perspective as to why would somebody book my property over booking a competitor's property. So that is, of course, getting on with the OTAs and making sure that you're looking at that. There are strategies that you can do to target international travelers. So, for example, on Expedia and booking.com, you can create an international discount that is targeted to New Zealand travelers. So it might not be available to the Australian public, but you can create it to target those travelers coming from overseas. And you can tailor that not just for New Zealand, as future bubbles continue to open. You could target Thailand or Singapore or Fiji. So you have all those opportunities to target those new markets that may be traveling into the area.
That's brilliant. And can you? So I take it with your pricing has to be the same for all markets. You can't just bump it up for international travelers and then discount it again, can you?
No, unfortunately, channel managers don't give that kind of flexibility. You could if you had an international OTA. So, say for example, if you're working with someone who is exclusively in New Zealand, but these days, your production comes from your couple of big guys, so it's very difficult to strategize around that.
Cool, awesome. Okay, so in general, your feeling is optimistic. You're feeling good. You've just recently picked up, I think you said 20 rooms. So that's, I mean, you're doubling down. You're going for it. You think that things are going to be good.
Yeah, that's correct. So, as I mentioned before, I've recently acquired one of my clients just as a letting business. So, 23 rooms in the letting pool within a building in Surfers Paradise. So very optimistic about how things are looking for travel. Obviously, it's still going to be tough. It's not going to be an easy road, and I think we're not out of it just yet. But all the signs are optimistic. The numbers that we're seeing and the future bookings that are starting to come back in, we are starting to return to some kind of normality. And I think as we continue to have more vaccine rollouts and more international travel bubbles open, we'll get back to that normality because Australia is always going to be seen as the safe place to travel. And same with New Zealand, but at the same time, everyone has always wanted to come to Australia. They've always wanted to travel here before, but now more so. It's even more reason for them to come here because we have COVID under control so well.
Awesome. Look, this is a really simple, straightforward interview. It's great. Like I feel that we've really covered off on what's happened, what's happening, where it's going to go. If we think as well in terms of those changes in terms of travel, I think that you're absolutely right that you'll have different pockets that will open up and they may close down again with time. I don't think, and that's going to be ongoing over the next few years. Rather than worldwide travel being coming back to what it was, because you can see that there are countries that are spiking at the moment. So I think that the one great thing to learn from this as well is that you want to look at those markets and have your OTA strategy set up so that then when those markets open, then you can sort of plug into them and then create some more demand and build your databases and do everything else that you need to do to try to get more guests coming through. Is there anything else that we're missing or that I haven't asked about that you would like to share?
I would just share that people need to not underestimate the power of social media, especially in this current day and age with bubbles continuing to open and the power of word of mouth. So I think Nick has touched on it before about creating great experiences for guests. Sometimes it doesn't hurt just to pick one or two guests out that you're going to go above and beyond for and do something a little bit more unique for them. Because I think you'll find that those kinds of guests will be your promoters next time that they're talking about their holidays. They'll be the ones who will tell all their friends that they need to go and stay with your property or they need to go and stay in your region because they've had such a great experience. And it's easy to identify those guests to do it for as well because those are the guests that are already engaging with you on social media channels before they've even come to stay. So whether they're messaging you on Facebook or they're commenting on your Instagram that they're really excited to come and stay, those are the ones that we need to target.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. That experience of someone booking or if they are communicating with you on your socials, that's a high value prospect for you. They're not communicating with you for the fun of it. They're doing it because they like you, because they want to be there, they want the experience, they're excited. So capturing that's going to be super important. I think the other thing with social media that I've noticed is the response times that you really need to put in have to be super quick nowadays. Either you do it yourself, or you've got someone doing it for you, or you're using technology to get back to people. That's going to be super important over the next 6 to 12 months to deliver that level of expectation. Because if you're not doing it, guarantee that someone else will do it, and then that customer will quite simply just move across. Look, Chris, I love the fact that you've joined the community. I love that you've got huge experience. I love that you're a doer and that you're getting out there and you're building and you're doing. And you can really tell because whenever we talk, wherever we conversate, it's always your time is always limited. You're just doing a lot of stuff. And I love it that you don't have too much time to spend with me on social and doing stuff because you're out there and you're really hitting goals. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Look, I love to support people like yourself. I like to see Australian success. I like to see people doing well within the community, be it if you're a novice and you're just getting in, or if you're more well established, or you're starting a new company. We've all got a lot to impart and to share. So thanks for sharing some of your little tips. These are tips that people can go and start to action today. And I don't like to put too many in one episode. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you around. Just to tie off, is there anything that the community can do to you to pay it forward, or anything you'd like to end on?
No, always open for a conversation. If anyone would like a hand or just a quick update or has any questions that they'd like, please feel free to reach out to me directly, whether that's through Facebook, LinkedIn, or through my website. I'm always open to helping anyone that I can.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the week, and I'm sure that our paths will cross again very soon. Thanks a lot.